The Arizona desert shimmered like molten gold under the afternoon sun. Dust swirled lazily in the air and the horizon rippled with heat. Ethan Cole, a weathered cowboy with eyes the color of gunmetal, rode slowly across the open wasteland. His canteen was half empty, his horse breathing heavy, and the silence of the desert pressed down like a weight. He had been on his way back to Dust Creek after delivering cattle when he heard it, a faint, broken sob carried on the hot wind. Ethan reined in his horse, tilting his head. It came again, soft and desperate, the kind of cry that didn't belong in the middle of nowhere. "Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing against the canyon walls. No answer. He swung down from his horse, his boots crunching on the dry earth. The wind picked up, blowing sand into his face as he followed the sound through a patch of prickly pear and dry sage. Then he saw her, a small figure curled beneath a thorny mesquite tree. The girl was no older than 7. Her dark hair was tangled, her skin sunburned, and her eyes, large, frightened, and deep as the desert night, stared at him with mistrust. Her little hands clutched a silver pendant shaped like a crescent moon. Ethan knelt slowly, keeping his distance. "Easy now, sweetheart," he murmured. "Ain't nobody gonna hurt you." She didn't reply, only pressed herself tighter against the tree. Ethan set his hat aside and reached into his saddlebag. He pulled out a strip of jerky and his canteen, placing them on the ground between them. "You look like you could use a drink more than I can." The girl hesitated before crawling forward. She drank greedily, then nibbled at the food. Ethan watched her carefully, how she kept glancing at the horizon, as if expecting someone to come for her. "What's your name?" he asked. No answer, only silence and the whisper of the desert wind. He sighed. "Guess I'll call you Luna," he said with a faint smile, looking up at the rising moon. That night, as the stars spilled across the sky, Ethan made camp with Luna asleep beside the fire. He didn't know where she came from or who she belonged to, but something in his chest told him that fate had just placed this little girl in his path for a reason. The wind swept across the crimson cliffs of the canyon, carrying with it the scent of dust and sorrow. Naya, the proud Apache widow, rode her chestnut mare along the dry riverbed, her dark braids whipping behind her. Her sharp eyes scanned the earth for signs, hoofprints, small footprints, anything that might lead her to her missing daughter, Luna. It had been 3 sunrises since the child vanished. The people of her camp searched the hills and valleys, but the desert was vast, and every hour without news carved deeper pain into Naya's heart. She had already lost her husband to the bullets of raiders. She could not lose her daughter to the cruel hands of fate. She stopped by a withered cactus where a faint footprint caught her eye. Small, delicate, half filled with sand. Her breath caught. "Luna," she whispered, touching the mark with trembling fingers. The tracks led toward the white man's trails. Territory her people warned her never to enter. But a mother's fear was stronger than pride. At sunset, Naya reached the outskirts of Dust Creek, a settlement of wooden buildings and flickering lamps. She pulled her shawl tight over her shoulders, hiding her face as she walked her horse between the dusty streets. The sound of laughter and boots striking the wooden planks echoed from the saloon. To these people, she was invisible, another shadow moving through the night. Then she saw her. Across the street outside the general store, a tall cowboy lifted a small girl onto a horse. Luna giggled, clutching his hat as the man smiled warmly. Naya froze, her breath caught in her throat. Relief and rage collided in her chest. Her baby was alive, but in the arms of a stranger. She took a step forward, hand trembling near her knife, but something stopped her. The cowboy's movements were gentle, protective. His eyes weren't cruel. Luna wasn't afraid. Naya's anger softened, replaced by confusion. Who was this man? What did he want with her child? As the sun sank behind the ridge, she mounted her horse and rode silently to the hills overlooking the cowboy's small ranch. From the shadows, she watched the lights flicker in his cabin and saw Luna's small silhouette dancing before the fire. Tears welled in her eyes. Her daughter was safe, but Naya's heart was not. Tomorrow, she vowed, the cowboy would face her. The night hung heavy over the desert, the air cool and thick with silence. Crickets whispered in the sagebrush, and the faint glow of Ethan's lantern spilled through the cracks of his wooden cabin. He sat by the fire, polishing his revolver, while Luna slept curled beneath a blanket on the rug. Then came the sound, soft at first, then clearer. Hoofbeats, slow, measured, coming straight toward the cabin. Ethan's instincts flared. His hand went to his gun, but something told him not to draw. He stepped out onto the porch, eyes narrowing into the darkness. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman on horseback, wrapped in a dark shawl, her long braids glinting faintly under the moonlight. Her presence was commanding, her posture proud. She dismounted with fluid grace, her rifle slung across her shoulder. "You have something that belongs to me," she said, her voice firm, carrying a mix of pain and defiance. Ethan kept his tone calm. "You mean the little girl?" "My daughter," she snapped, her eyes flashing. "You took her." He shook his head slowly. "Ma'am, I found her half dead in the desert. Been taking care of her till I could find who she belonged to. Didn't know she had a mother still looking." For a long moment, the only sound was the wind whistling through the canyon. The tension between them was sharp enough to cut steel. Then the cabin door creaked open. "Mama," a small voice whispered. Luna ran out barefoot, eyes wide with shock and joy. "Mama!" she cried, rushing into Naya's arms. The rifle slipped from Naya's shoulder as she dropped to her knees. Clutching her daughter tightly, she buried her face in the child's hair, sobbing with relief. Ethan looked away, giving them the moment they deserved. After a while, Naya rose, her eyes glistening with tears. She studied Ethan for a long time, the way he stood quietly, hat in hand, respect in every line of his face. "You cared for her," she said softly. "Why?" Ethan shrugged, voice low. "Because she needed someone, and I couldn't turn away." Something in her gaze shifted. The fire of anger dimmed, replaced by gratitude and a flicker of something deeper, fragile but real. "Come to our camp tomorrow," she said finally. "You deserve thanks and truth." As she rode away into the moonlit canyon, Ethan stood on his porch, staring after her. He didn't yet know that tonight had changed everything. The morning sun rose over the canyon like molten gold, washing the land in warmth and promise. Ethan Cole rode toward the Apache camp, dust trailing behind his horse. He wasn't sure what waited for him there, anger, gratitude, or maybe something in between. But he knew he owed it to Luna and to the woman whose eyes had haunted him since that night. When he reached the camp, the Apaches watched him warily. Warriors stood near their fires, hands resting on spears and bows. Ethan dismounted slowly, showing he carried no weapon but respect. From the largest teepee emerged Naya, proud and graceful, her daughter's small hand tucked in hers. Luna broke free and ran to him, laughter bright as birdsong. "You came back," she cried, wrapping her arms around his leg. Ethan smiled, tipping his hat. "Told you I would, little moon." The people began to soften, their suspicion melting as they saw Luna's joy. Naya motioned for him to sit by the fire. She offered him roasted corn and a clay cup of herbal tea. "You cared for my child when I could not," she said quietly. "You have my gratitude." Ethan nodded. "Didn't do nothing any decent man wouldn't. She saved me, too, in her own way." Over the next days, Ethan stayed in the camp, helping mend fences, repair saddles, and teach young men how to care for horses. He listened to their songs at night, the steady drums blending with the rustle of wind through the pines. Slowly, the barrier between cowboy and tribe began to fade. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in violet and gold, Naya joined him by the river. The water shimmered, reflecting the last light of day. "She speaks of you often," she said softly. "She says you make her laugh, that you protect her heart." Ethan looked out at the horizon. "She reminds me what life's worth fighting for." Naya's gaze lingered on him, warm and searching. "You gave her safety, and you gave me hope," she whispered. Their eyes met, no words needed. In that silence, something deeper bloomed between them, fragile yet certain. When Ethan finally rode away days later, Luna chased after him, waving. "Will you come back?" He turned, smiling beneath his hat. "You just try and stop me." As he disappeared into the sunset, Naya watched with a quiet smile. For the first time in years, her heart no longer carried loss, it carried promise.